On this week's Whether or Not, an update on oil and natural gas wells in Pennsylvania. A Philadelphia school receives a major award on environmental safety. And in this week's feature report, Christmas trees in State College. That and your weekend forecast all coming up. Whether or Not starts right now. And a very warm welcome to you on this edition of Whether or Not. I'm your host, Jake Langedyk.
And I'm your forecaster, Juklo.
Well, Addis, Thanksgiving is now in the rearview mirror. December is on its way. What are we expecting for the first couple of days of December?
Well, it's looking a pretty nice weekend. It will be a quiet start to the month. We'll also be on the seasonably mild side. Unfortunately, some big changes look to be coming later next week. Some cold, maybe even some snow, but some of us might be looking forward to it, others might be dreading that.
The winds of winter on their way, so to speak.
Yeah, certainly, and it's going to feel much colder at this time next week.
Well, we'll see what kind of surprises Addis has in store, but first, here's a look at nature in the news. Residents on the island of Bali in Indonesia remain on high alert as the potential eruption of Mount Agung continues to rattle nerves. Since the start of September, increasing seismic activity as well as numerous smaller eruptions have led to the evacuation of more than 100,000 residents living within just 10 miles of the volcano. As volcanic ash reaches miles into the Earth's atmosphere, officials closed Bali's largest airport, even though it sits over 40 miles away from the volcano. Tens of thousands of tourists are stranded on Bali, but officials are doing everything they can to ensure their safety as well as those of the citizens living on the island. Mount Agung last erupted back in 1963, killing around 1,500 people, mostly as a result of devastating debris flows that swept across the island. Indonesia is part of the so-called Ring of Fire, a seismically and volcanically active region along the Pacific coast of Asia and the Americas. Indonesia is home to two of the most devastating volcanic eruptions in modern history, Mount Tambora in 1815 and Krakatoa in 1883.
Governor Tom Wolf announced on Tuesday the approval of funding for the cleanup of former industrial sites in Montgomery, Luzerne, and Allegheny counties to prepare them for occupation by businesses and residential properties. The funding was provided by the Department of Community and Economic Development's Industrial Sites Reuse Program, or ISRP. Quote, the benefits of ISRP are twofold, not only removing harmful chemicals and contaminants from these sites and protecting our environment, but also making them ready for new occupants, Governor Wolf said. Having these sites ready for business is a significant attraction when companies are looking to relocate or expand. The ISRP provides loans and grants for environmental assessments and remediation. The program is designed to foster the cleanup of environmental contamination at industrial sites, thereby bringing polluted land into productive reuse.
The number of abandoned oil and gas wells across Pennsylvania may be hard to comprehend, but a new estimate says it's not as bad as first guessed. Terry Engelder, Professor Emeritus of Geosciences here at Penn State, estimates that of the 382,000 wells drilled in Pennsylvania, over 250,000 have been capped and abandoned, but state records can only confirm less than 90,000. Dr. Engelder's estimate is far less than the 500 to 750,000 wells Stanford researchers calculated back in 2016. Regardless, abandoned wells still pose a major risk to the environment. Because of not properly taken care of, wells can leak oil and natural gas to the surrounding environment. Stanford researchers are disputing Dr. Engelder's claims, claiming, quote, it does not appear to be as thorough and includes only a few select documents, some of which conflict entirely with other historical records. The Pennsylvania Department of Environmental Protection estimates that to close some 200,000 wells across the state, the cost would be around $8.5 billion, over 11 times the agency's annual budget.
The Springside Chestnut Hill Academy in Philadelphia was awarded the Green Flag by the National Wildlife Federation's Eco Schools USA program due to successful greening on campus. From waste management to water reservation, the school has gone above and beyond to prove their sustainability commitment the past 2 decades. SCH has the largest solar array in Philadelphia, a Gold LEED certified building with a wind turbine, multiple rain gardens, and recycling and composting in their cafeteria. As the highest award the NWF grants, SCH is the only independent school out of 150 total in Pennsylvania that received the green flag. Frank Alois, Chief Financial Officer of SCH, says, We feel strongly that it is good business sense to implement best practices in energy conservation and water and waste management. SCH educates about sustainability beginning in pre-K, goes all the way through 12th grade. Well, a forecast that will feature lots of changes in the extended period will start off on the dry and seasonably mild side this weekend. We'll have a front push through Thursday night, and behind it, some cooler air will work its way in. And after a bit of a cloudy start Friday, it does look like we will finish mostly sunny as this area of high pressure builds on in. Saturday, the front's offshore, the high is overhead, so that means sunshine. There will also be some clouds as a result of a weak upper air disturbance that passes by, but really that's about it. By Sunday, I do expect more of a southerly wind flow, and with high pressure again overhead, should be a mostly sunny sky by the afternoon. Friday, clear skies by the afternoon hours, so no worries if you have any Friday night plans. Even Saturday afternoon, again, just expecting some mid or high clouds to move on in, but really it's shaping up to be a pretty nice weekend. Friday, a mostly sunny sky, high temperatures on the seasonal side in the mid-40s. Friday night, seasonably chilly. We'll drop it down into the upper 20s under a mostly clear sky. And then Saturday, a few more clouds for the afternoon, but pretty similar when it comes to temperatures as Friday. And then Sunday, it does look like warming up just a touch, 47 degrees under a mostly sunny sky. Coming up, Kristy has a feature on Christmas trees.
In my family, it's a tradition to pick out the perfect Christmas tree to display in our house right after Thanksgiving. I don't know about you, but I've always been curious about how these special trees grow to become the beautiful centerpieces that they are in our house. So I decided to stop by my local Christmas tree farm, the Jordan Lake Christmas Tree Farm here in Apex, North Carolina, and take you on this journey with me. Where you live actually determines the types of trees available to you. Some trees can withstand colder temperatures than others. Tree farmers use the United States Department of Agriculture's Plant Hardiness Zone Map to determine which tree types will thrive on their farm. This map is based on the average annual minimum winter temperature and is divided into 10-degree Fahrenheit zones. The trees that grow in North Carolina are not as hardy as the trees that grow in Pennsylvania.
The varieties we have there's cypress varieties. We have three. One is a blue ice. It's very, very blue, just like the name intends. Another is Carolina sapphire, and another is Leland cypress that we grow. We also grow cedar, which is a traditional North Carolina Christmas tree. A lot of people remember just going out in the woods and cutting down a cedar tree as their Christmas tree. So we do have some of those. And then we have Virginia pine, which are a medium-sized needle, and they have fairly sturdy branches, so people like that a lot for some heavy ornaments.
On the other hand, Pennsylvania farmers have better luck growing spruce and fir tree varieties, which can withstand sub-zero temperatures. However, temperatures can get too cold for these trees. Extreme cold can impede the tree's growth and injure the tree by giving it winter burn. Excessive snow and ice can also cause limbs and branches to snap off. Aside from temperatures playing a major role in Christmas tree growth success, the amount of moisture and drainage available is also important. Most tree varieties require deep rains followed by dry, sunny periods, so roots have time to dry out to prevent fungus growth. For this reason, the best place for a Christmas tree farm is on a downward slope where the water can naturally drain out. Soil type also determines how much drainage can occur. If these conditions are not met, crop loss becomes an issue.
We have in past years lost about 40% of our crop, especially the small seedlings that are 1 or 2 years old, just because the soil is clay soil and it's really horrible soil. So it needs to be amended. There's only a couple spots that have that moist, sandy soil.
Once the perfect location is found, planting can begin.
January, February is when we typically plant new seedlings. Most times here in North Carolina, the ground is not frozen, so we're able to get into the ground. And we like to get them as early as possible because once we hit March and April, we have somewhat of a wet, spring season where we've got a little bit of water, so that helps really well with the new plants.
It typically takes around 5 years for Christmas trees to reach their selling potential. Throughout that growing time, pest control and shearing become the priority.
Our biggest pest is an animal, more as in deer, and so they like to nibble on a lot of our young trees, and they will take them down as far as eating them, and then those bucks will also run their antlers all up and down the tree, and they'll just take all the branches off the tree. And mostly they do that with the Leland cypress. They're not scented and they're very soft, so they like that. There's no scent to them, and we do try to buffer those Leland cypress in among trees they don't like, but they still get their mouths on the other ones and are eating them. Other pests that we have are pine tip moth for our pine trees. They will destroy a whole run and a whole branch of a pine on a pine tree. So typically a lot of that stuff we can shear off when we're shearing them, but the top is really what we want to preserve. So we do spray, we do chemical sprays, pesticides on some of our trees, but we try to limit that as much as possible.
To make sure your tree looks perfect, farmers shear and fork their trees throughout the years.
Even the smaller ones, we start a process called forking, where we're trying to take out and thin the tree really, trying to get it a little bit of a shape, but not forcing a shape on it. Once they're about 3 and 4 years old, then we're really trying to shear the tree into a shape. And then those that we're going to sell, that we know that we're going to sell, that are big enough to sell for that season, we'll really do a heavy shearing on them, making sure they're really in shape.
During sell season, trees that are ready to be sold are tagged and wait for you to pick them out. Once you find your perfect tree, it's cut down and wrapped up for you to place in your home. The most famous Christmas tree of all, though, is the Rockefeller Center tree, which just so happened to come from our very own State College this year. Earlier in November, crews stopped by State College to cut down an 80-year-old, 75-foot Norway spruce and transported it to New York City to be decorated and put on a very special display. Well, now that I've found my perfect Christmas tree, I'm going to head on over to the pay station, have them cut it down and wrap it up for me. For Whether or Not, I'm Kristy Steward.
Well, welcome back. I mentioned earlier there's going to be changes in the extended forecast, and there will be lots of changes, but not this weekend. Check it out. Lots of sunshine throughout your Saturday and Sunday. Temperatures on the seasonably mild side, maybe 4 or 5 degrees above average. Unfortunately, after a mild start to the work week, it does look like temperatures will tank. By Wednesday, we're going to see a lot of cold air pour on in from Canada, so that will likely change any rain on Tuesday over to some light snow by Wednesday night and Thursday. It does look like we'll remain cloudy and cold even into late next week.
Well, a very un-December-like start to the month, am I right?
Yeah, pretty quiet start, nice weekend, and as you saw there, even a nice start to the work week. But fortunately, sometimes this time of year, Mother Nature doesn't know what the heck she wants. So
exactly.
Old Man Winter will be poking his head in for the first time later next week.
Hard to believe there's only about 3 weeks and change before Christmas. And speaking of which, early in the show, we asked you, how high was the tallest Christmas tree to ever be erected at Rockefeller Center in New York City? Was it A, 82 feet, B, 88 feet, C, 94 feet, or D, 100 feet?
I like that number 100.
Well, guess what? 100 feet is indeed the correct answer. The tallest Christmas tree to date came in Midtown Manhattan back in 1999. A Norwegian spruce from Killingworth, Connecticut clocked in at an even 100 feet tall.
Wow. But there's always room to grow, to coin a phrase, because the trucks used to take the tree to New York can accommodate a 125-foot tall tree.
That's right. Keep in mind, the State College tree this year is 75 feet tall, but it's not the size of the tree that matters, right? It's the Christmas spirit.
Exactly. It's all right, 75 feet, but we have plenty of spirit here in Happy Valley
exactly.
to make up for it.
Well, that's all the time we have this week on Whether or Not. I've been your host, Jake Langedyk.
And I'm your forecaster, Juklo.
See you next time, friends.